Welcome back to Nick's News Network. Today we're going to be talking about qualified immunity and why it should be abolished. First off, if you're familiar with my channel, you're aware of the fact that police officers violate people's constitutional rights on an everyday basis. Whenever this does happen and the victim files a lawsuit and wins in court, the city is forced to pay a settlement. But the settlement doesn't come out of the pockets of the police officers, it comes out of the pockets of the taxpayers in that state. Now you may be wondering why that is. It's because police officers here in the States are protected under something called qualified immunity. You may be asking yourself, what is qualified immunity? Well, let's learn about it.
Qualified immunity is a legal doctrine that was developed through court precedent rather than through congressional legislation. The point of qualified immunity is to protect government employees from any real accountability when it comes to civil lawsuits. Qualified immunity implies that the officer made an honest mistake in the line of their duty. For example, a cop using excessive force can still be granted qualified immunity as long as there is not a previous court case that has ruled that type of excessive force as a violation of civil rights. In the case of Baxter versus Bracey and Harris, the Supreme Court declined to hear the case that involved sicking an attack dog on an individual. Interestingly enough, there was actually a similar prior case where a citizen had already surrendered and the officer still used the attack dog anyways. The courts ruled that case as a constitutional violation. The lawyers of the case in Baxter versus Bracey and Harris said in the previous case that the man was laying face down when he surrendered. In the new case, he was sitting with his arms up. That little distinction made by the lawyers granted the officers immunity. Unfortunately, it's getting easier for police to be granted qualified immunity, even if the judge rules that there was a civil rights violation, leaving the officers to face no real consequences for their actions, while taxpayers continue to fund the settlement money. So to sum it all up, qualified immunity allows officers, in a sense, to think, it's not my problem, when using excessive force and making wrongful arrests.
So now that we know what qualified immunity is, let's look at how it affects policing. Since police officers know that they're not at fault when they make mistakes, that makes them more willing to not only violate their policy, but violate our constitutional rights in hopes of catching a bad guy. Let's use a hypothetical example to help explain it better. Let's say an officer pulls you over for expired plates. Minor infraction. While you're pulled over, the officer senses an odor of marijuana coming from your car. Even though the odor of marijuana alone isn't enough probable cause in the state of California, the officer very well may pull you out of your car and search your vehicle in hopes of finding narcotics, something to arrest you on. This would fall under a Fourth Amendment violation because that wasn't the reason why the officer pulled you over in the first place, and like I said, the odor alone isn't enough probable cause here in the states of California. But even if you were to file a lawsuit and win, the officer would get off scotch-free because he was acting in the line of his duty, using a term they like to call officer discretion. If the hypothetical example wasn't enough, let's look at an actual example of qualified immunity at work. To see an example of this, we have to look none other than to my friend for public safety. Watching this video as the Clark County Sheriff's Office listens to the orders of their prosecutor rather than following the law.
You are trespassing from this building. You're not allowed back in here. If you come back, you'll be arrested.
You cannot trespass me from this
You're
property.
trespassing from this building. Put the prosecutor's office. You need to leave.
What is the criminal charge?
You are trespassing. You need
But
to leave.
why? What are we
Leave.
doing wrong?
You cannot trespass us from this property.
You need to leave.
No, we're making an appointment we're conducting legal business.
You can call on the phone and do that. Front desk.
You guys need to learn the law.
Not illegally trespass people.
I'm doing what the
from
prosecutor said to
government.
do. Okay?
The prosecutor doesn't get to say to do that.
Needs to learn the
So the
law.
prosecutor doesn't know the
I
law.
need some officers up on the
That's
first
terrible
floor.
that the Clark County prosecutor does not know the law. Like,
Yeah.
this is an illegal trespass.
You can't do
Front
this.
door.
You can't do this. We would have left on our own if
I
you'd
don't
been
care.
civil.
I'm giving you
Yeah,
a
we
message from the
understand that
prosecutor's
you don't
office.
Well,
care.
what's
It doesn't matter. I'm not going to discuss anything with you. It's not my discussion.
But you're trying to violate
You
my
need
rights.
to leave the building.
Really?
Yes.
De-escalate, sir.
I am de-escalating. Leave the
No,
building.
you're actually escalating.
No, your
You
face
need to
is
leave the
very
building. You're
red.
being
You're
trespassed
not
from this
de-escalating.
building.
We can't be
per the
trespassed.
prosecutor's office.
You guys are violating the Constitution. Didn't you take an oath to it?
Let's go.
Sir, please don't put your hands on me, guys. You need to get your hands off me. You're violent. Get back and video this. Well, what you're doing is unconstitutional and illegal. Clark County is unconstitutional. What they're doing is following the orders of their prosecutor, who is illegal. And now they're making a scene in their defamation. This is defamation. Do you understand this?
sir.
What this does is it makes me look like a criminal.
I'm
and
gonna
I'm not.
escort you to the sidewalk. That is
Well,
no longer our property. That is
you
public
need to get your
property.
damn hands off me because that's a lawsuit.
That's
You too.
Lieutenant Delfonso, sir.
Lieutenant Delfonso.
Yes,
You're a
sir.
lieutenant and you don't
Yes,
know
sir.
any better than this?
I do know.
Well, why are you doing it then? You don't believe in your oath?
There you go, sir.
Well,
there you
I'll
go.
tell you what, guys.
I'm
You
still
should
being-
never put your hands on me. And you guys need to honor your oath to the Constitution.
So there you have it. Qualified immunity allows bad officers to continue being bad It allows them to enforce their feelings rather than the law. In this example specifically, the officers are willing to go hands-on because the orders came from the prosecutor. They are unlawful orders to trespass these two. But if a lawsuit were to be filed and won, the officers wouldn't be at fault because that order was given to them by the prosecutor. The prosecutor has absolute immunity, cops have qualified immunity. None of them will ever face charges. What we can do is help spread the word of how bad qualified immunity is in hopes of bringing awareness to more people. The more people we reach, the better chance we have at abolishing qualified immunity. So that's going to do it for today's video. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you learned something in today's video, be sure to leave a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe if you're not already, and click the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I highly advise you to share this with at least 3 people to help spread the word on qualified immunity. Thank you guys for tuning in to Nick's News Network. Remember, end qualified immunity now. I'll be back with another video soon. Peace.